Friendship Village. Welcome to floor yoga class. If you're comfortable getting down into the floor, go ahead and do so now. If you're not quite sure if you can make it down to the floor safely or be able to get back up, maybe skip this class for today or take a seat and adapt the postures to a seated position. You can always call the fitness center and ask one of the fitness team members to help you out with the skill of getting down and up from the floor. I'm going to demonstrate today on the basic way to get down into the floor. You're going to want a sturdy surface, like a chair that's up against the wall, or a couch, or maybe your bed. And you'll want something to put your knees on the ground, like a yoga mat, or a towel, or a pillow. Start by putting your hands on the chair or whatever sturdy surface you're using. You'll want to soften your knees when you do this, just so you don't strain your back or the back of your legs. Use the strength of your arms and brace with your tummy muscles to step one foot back and lower one of your knees down onto the mat or the pillow. Use your arms for a lot of help here, soft landing if possible. Then step your other foot back, get your other knee down onto the floor or onto the pillow, whatever you're using, and then transfer your hands down onto the floor. I'm going to move this chair out of the way just for the sake of the rest of the class. So you're on all fours on the ground here. You're going to use the strength of your arms and your abs once again to carefully bring your knees over to one side and slowly lower one hip down onto the mat. And then rotate onto your bottom and lie all the way down. I'm using a rolled up towel today to put under my neck to support the natural curve of my neck. You can also just use a regular pillow under your head here, or you could use nothing at all. So carefully make your way all the way down onto your back for the start of class. You can have your knees bent if that feels better to your hips and your spine, or you could straighten your legs all the way out. Face your palms up toward the ceiling so your arms are rotating open. And take some deep breaths here as you settle into the floor, into the mat. You may close your eyes if you wish, or just have a soft gaze up at the ceiling. Relax your eye muscles and your forehead, your jaw. And let that relaxation just wash over the entire body. And practice breathing more into your belly. Let's put one hand on the lower ribs / stomach area and one hand on the sternum in the center of the chest. And picture your breath swirling around in those two spots right under your hands. Let's pick a phrase or a mantra for class today. The one that I am choosing today is, I am resilient, I am strong, I am adaptable. You can softly repeat your phrase or mantra to yourself, either out loud or just in your mind. Bring your knees up toward your chest, nice and slow, placing your feet down on the mat first and maybe readjusting your spine. Then knees toward the chest. And softly move a little bit from side to side. If it bothers your knees to grip around them, you can always grip behind them, drawing close. Some rocks from side to side. And we'll do half wind removing pose. Place your left foot down on the mat, interlace your fingers, and put your hand about 2 inches below the knee. And slowly bring your knee out to the side and down toward your shoulder or toward your armpit. Avoid bringing your thigh and your knee directly onto your stomach or ribs or chest. It's more out to the side and more like you're trying to touch your inner thigh to your side body. And let's circle that knee around a little bit. Move it from side to side. And we'll switch sides. Maybe switch your grip with your interlaced fingers. Bring your knee slightly off to the side and toward your shoulder or your armpit. Reconnect to your breath as you hold here. See if you can breathe through your nose throughout class. Keep the shoulders relaxed. And we'll get a little movement here as well. Moving the knee around in circles from side to side. Full wind removing pose. Once again, you can bring your hands to the back of your thighs, or you could reach around your legs, trying to grab opposite arms wherever you can get it. Maybe it's interlacing the fingers for now, or you could reach for opposite wrists, opposite forearms, maybe opposite elbows, depending on the flexibility and health of your hips and knees. See if you can flatten your spine out on the mat as you squeeze your knees together. Pull your knees toward your chest. Just be careful with this if you have any hip issues. Just take it gentle. Nothing in the yoga class or really any exercise should be painful. We want to find that point where we have a little discomfort, where we're pushing ourselves a little bit, but it should not feel painful ever. All right, let go, set your feet down on the mat, reach your arms up overhead, take a deep breath in, stretch it out, And a deep breath out. Do that one more time. You could also stretch your legs out, reach out in all directions. Bend the knees, place the feet on the mat. We're going to do a little bit of ab work next. Bring your knees up in the air toward your chest. You can either hold onto your legs for this, or you can bring your hands behind your head and kind of cradle your head in your hands a bit so that your neck muscles aren't working too hard. While you're here with your head off the ground, keep some space between your throat and your chest and your chin. So there's, in Pilates, I believe they talk about, like, pretend like there's a big orange there or a grapefruit. Then, I'd like you to bring your forehead toward your knees and hold. Your fingers and your arms can hold your head up as much as necessary, but you're using your abs to roll your shoulders up off the ground. So we want the shoulder blades eventually to lift up too. Keep breathing through it. Slowly lower down the head and the feet. Take a deep breath into the belly. And a deep breath out. We'll do another set of that. I'll show you an extra option if you'd like some more challenge. Knees up, cradle the head, space between the throat and the chest and the chin, and slowly curl up and hold, keeping that space between the chin and the throat and the chest. Cradling your head as much as you need. Option to begin to lift the feet up toward the ceiling, straightening the knees as much as you can. Hold here, curl up a little bit more, breathe. Slowly rest back down. Separate your feet wide as your mat or as wide as your shoulders, or maybe even wider, and just rock the knees from side to side. We'll get a little motion at the hips here. We may also feel a little looseness through the stomach and the spine. And we'll do another ab strengthener here. Bring your feet back to a neutral position. Focus on your hips and your low back for a moment. There's probably a little bit of space between your low back and the floor. I'd like you to roll your pelvis back so that your low back is flatter on the mat. This mostly comes from a tightening at the abdomen. Maybe there's a little tension at the bottom too, but mostly get this from your abs. Then think about the base of your rib cage. It might be pointing upward toward the ceiling. So think about drawing your rib cage down toward the mat. So your back is flat using your abs. Then you flatten your ribs using your abs as well. Then notice what that did to your shoulders. See if you need to relax through the shoulders and bring your shoulders down toward the floor. Hold here and breathe. You could put your hands on your pelvis area and your bottom of your rib cage just to support that flattening there. Keep breathing. And rest. For some of us, that might be really basic. For some of us, that might be really challenging. So you could repeat that same exercise, or you could add on. I'll review it once again, and then I'll show you the add-ons if you'd like to take them. So we're tipping the pelvis back by using the lower abdominals. We're bringing the rib cage flat and down by using the upper abdominals. And then we're holding there as we relax the shoulders and the neck. Legs are pretty much relaxed. Extra option is to bring your legs up into a tabletop position and to reach your hands up toward the ceiling. So this is a reverse quadruped. It's like you're in a crawling position on the ceiling. Hold here and breathe. Keep curling the pelvis. Keep flattening the ribs. And rest. Rock the knees a little bit from side to side. Let's rock and roll up to a seated position. Or you could just press yourself up to a seated position. So you hold onto the back of your thighs. This time I want you to tuck your chin to your throat, nice and tight. Curl up using those same muscles in your abdomen. And then pump with your feet to roll along your spine. If that hurts or is too uncomfortable, you can just use your hands to press up to seated. Or you could roll a few times and roll up to seated. Once you're there, just take a moment to sit. Take a deep breath. I'm going to get a sip of water. Next, we're going to practice Lolasana, or a variation of it. This is another abdominal exercise. Bring your hands by your sides. You could use a towel underneath your hands. If this bothers your wrists at all, you might want to try that variation. Or you could make a fist and push your fist into the ground for this pose. Otherwise, flat hands by your hips. Lean your chest forward a little bit. And it might feel like there's not enough room, but what I'd like you to try is push through your hands to lift your butt up off the ground and hold. Your hips will be tempted to glide forward because this is significantly easier. I'd like you to keep your hips in between your hands and rest. So you might feel like your arms are not long enough. But what this really is, see how my arms are straight and my buttocks is on the ground? So it might feel like I can't lift my butt up off the ground. What you need to do is use your lower abdominals to shorten the space between your ribs and your hips. So you're shortening that spot. And we're also using the shoulders to depress the shoulder blades away from the ears, and that'll create some space and length as well. It's a pretty challenging posture. Let's practice it one more time. Deep breath in. Exhale, Lolasana. You can push through your feet a little. Hands, depress the shoulders. Pull the pelvis up toward the ribs and hold. And rest. Woo! Nice. Let's get onto all fours in a quadruped. And we'll get a little spine movement here to start. And hip and shoulder movement, just rocking forward and back, side to side, circling the body around on the hands and the knees. Maybe doing some arching of the spine and rounding of the spine. Cat and cow is what this is called. You can coordinate the breath. Inhale. Exhale. I'll just give you some time here for a little bit of free movement. Just to move however you feel like your spine wants to today. Good. And we're going to practice what we did on our backs in that reverse quadruped. So I'd like you to think about your hips here. We're going to do that same tuck of the pelvis under a little bit. And think about your rib cage, that flattening of the rib cage as well. With this awareness, I'd like you to crawl forward a little bit and crawl backwards a little bit. This is a really basic motor movement that we learn. It's really good for the central nervous system to start with crawling when we're young. It's an important movement coordination for the nervous system. Now make it even slower where you pause with your hand and knee up in the air before you place them. Check in with your pelvis, check in with your ribs. Maybe you're feeling a lot through the abdomen, through the shoulders. Take a break if you need to. Check in with your breath. And let's take a break for a moment in child's pose. Separate your knees wide, bring your big toes together, flatten your feet out on the ground. Sit back toward your heels. You can rest your forearms down on the ground and relax your head. If you can sink back further, you could stretch your arms all the way out to bring your forehead to the ground. If you're up high and your forehead doesn't quite make it to the ground, you could always use a towel or a pillow to basically bring the floor up toward you a little bit so that your neck and head can rest. Come back up onto your hands and knees. Come all the way up onto your knees. You can put a hand on the wall if you need a little more support here. Just take a moment to reorient. We might need to give the blood some time to fall down. You may want your knees and feet a bit wider for more stability as we take the hands to the low back or to the buttocks if that feels better to your wrists. Think about your shoulders here. I'll face you so you can see me a bit better. Think about the ball and socket part of your shoulder. Usually they're rolling forward and pointing forward in older adults. So think about rolling those ball and socket joints back and open to the sides. You'll feel your upper back muscles have to squeeze together to help with that movement too. Hold here. This is called camel pose. We're going to stay here for a handful of breaths. Opening the chest. If you'd like more intensity and more of a back bend, you could look slightly upward and send your hips slightly forward. And that's going to begin to extend the spine. Make sure you can breathe in whatever variation you take. Feel that great stretch through the chest. And gently release. Wiggle out your arms a little bit. Place your hands back down onto the floor. Nice. Let's check in with our mantra or our phrase today. I am resilient. I am strong. I am adaptable. I am resilient. I am strong. I am adaptable. Bring your hands forward so your arms are at a diagonal. tighten up your ribs and your pelvis like we were in our quadruped before. Keep that tension through the abdomen as you glide your chest forward so your shoulders are over your wrists. So now we're in a supported high plank position. We have support from the knees, but our arms, our shoulders, our abs have to work hard to support the spine in this diagonal. Most of the body weight is in the hands. There is an option here to lift up into your toes. It is extra challenging to do so, so it's not necessary, but I will show that variation for those of you who want to try it out. Just be really mindful of your wrists and your shoulders here. You can press up onto your toes and hold a high plank position. Notice if your hips want to dip up or sag down, avoid that and keep your hips neutral. And slowly lower the knees back down. Puppy dog pose, just tip your hips back. Take the weight off of your hands. You can move your hands and wrists around a little bit. Come back forward onto the knees. The arms are at that diagonal, and we're checking in again with the ribs and the hips. They're nice and tight and supported. Leaning forward to that high plank position. Open through the chest. Maybe lift your head and your gaze a little bit forward out in front of you. Hold here and breathe. High plank pose. You could do the variation up onto your toes. Tighten your thighs. If you're up onto your toes, you're here for 3, 2, 1. Puppy dog pose. One more time. This time you could lower down onto your forearms or elbows. Shake out your head a little bit. Lie down on your side. Feels good, doesn't it? All that abdominal work, we're going to get into it a little bit more with side plank. So stack your elbow underneath your armpit or your shoulder joint. Your top hand can help you out by pushing down into the ground as we get into the posture, or you could have your top hand on your hip. That's more challenging. Let's get into it. Take a deep breath in, lengthen your spine. Exhale, push through your elbow, your hand, and your knee to lift your hips up off the ground. Stay here and breathe. Even if you have support with your hand on the ground, try to lengthen your spine. Keep breathing. Tuck your tail under your tailbone and slowly rest down. You can come up onto your hand if that feels good. Now, sometimes when we have problems with the shoulder, that might be too much, even with support of a top hand. So you can always try with this one, just simply staying there and holding your posture up nice and tall. And sometimes just having weight in that elbow can be enough strengthening. We don't have to lift the hips to get benefits. So let's do another set. You can either stay here, staying tall through the spine and just practicing keeping that shoulder stable while you have weight on it. If you'd like to lift the hips, you can go ahead and do that variation. Keep breathing for 3, 2, 1. Let's do the other side. Elbow below the shoulder or the armpit. I used to do my side plank with my arm parallel like this, but I've noticed recently that my shoulder sometimes feels more comfortable with an angle of the forearm. So you can play around with the angle of the forearm and what feels most stable to your shoulder. Once again, top hand can help. Take a deep breath in and straighten your spine. Exhale, press through the elbow, the hand, the knee. Now this side is stronger for me, so I feel comfortable bringing my hand to my hip. You can keep your hand on the ground. Keep breathing. Slowly lower down. We are typically asymmetrical beings. Usually we have one side that's a bit more strong and stable than the other. We have the other side is a bit more flexible and usually a little bit weaker if that's the case. So the postures don't have to look the same on each side of the body. There can be a little variation. Let's do that one more time on this side. Lower down. Check in with your spine. Check in with your shoulder that it's not scrunching up toward the ear, but we're pressing it down and away. And when you're ready, exhale, lift up into your side plank, Vashisthasana. In Sanskrit, you can have the hand on the floor, pushing into the ground to help out. You could keep your hips on the ground rather than lifting up. Tuck your tailbone under so your abs are really nice and engaged here, and feel those side abs getting a lot of work. Slowly lower down. Very nice. Lower down onto your back. Once again, you can use a pillow or a towel for support for your head. And we'll do bridge pose here. For bridge, just be careful of the support that you have under your head. When we lift up, when we lift the hips up, we don't necessarily want the head scrunching up as well. Sometimes that can put too much strain on the spine. So maybe try it once without your head support, and then if it feels like you need it, then try it for the second set. All right, press through the feet, squeeze the buttocks muscles and lift the hips up in the air. Push your feet down into the mat to make it feel like you're trying to slide your body on the floor. That'll shift some weight into the shoulders. You might feel a little more engagement in the thighs when you do that. If you get hamstring cramps, just lower down, stretch it out, and try it again. And slowly lower back down onto the ground. You can rock your knees here. So you could try, if you felt a lot of hamstring activation during that, we're trying to get the buttocks muscles to work. You could try feet wider, you could try knees wider and toes turned out, and that turned out wide motion will target the glute muscles a little bit easier. You may also get a stretch in your inner thighs when you do that variation. So let's do another set. Take a deep breath in, deep breath out, push through the feet, squeeze the buttocks muscles, lift the hips up and hold. Push through the feet so you feel body weight in your shoulders, across your upper back, and in your feet, mostly in your heels. Squeeze the butt here. And slowly lower down. Oh, nice. Stretch it out a little bit, however you'd like to. And let's do a quick stretch in a seated position here for the hamstrings. So you can rock and roll back up, or you could press your fingers, or rather press your forearms into the ground to get back up to seated. Extend the legs out in front of you. You can prop yourself up into your hands back behind you. We'll get a little ankle movement here. Maybe simply sitting like this gives you a lot of stretching sensation, in which case you can just hang out right here. Flex your feet back toward you and hold. If you'd like a little more intensity, you can bring your gaze to your feet and then walk your hands closer to your body so you're sitting up taller. You could also bring your hands forward to frame your legs. You could put your hands on your legs or on your feet. There's no right or wrong answer here, except that the goal is to get a stretch for the back of your legs. So if you feel that stretch when you're here, it doesn't mean that you're doing the posture wrong if someone else is here. You both are accomplishing the goal of the exercise, which is to feel that sensation there and to breathe through it and work with it. Maybe remembering your mantra again. Come all the way back up to seated. Bend your right knee and put your right foot on the outside of your left leg with your right foot flat on the ground. Bring your right hand behind your body and rotate to the right a little bit. Hold on to your right leg with your left hand, either by the shin or the knee. You could wrap around the leg. Rotate as far as you feel comfortable. However, your goal here is to elongate your spine as you turn. Your goal here is also to maintain your breath. Deep inhales to lengthen the spine and deep exhales to rotate. And let's do the other side. Place the foot to the outside of the leg. You can have it close to the calf, the outside of the knee, or the outside of the thigh, whatever flexibility allows for. Place your left hand close to your body behind your hips, right hand to the shin, the knee, or wrapping around. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, look. Couple more breaths like that. Very nice. We're going to lower down onto the stomach for a couple back strengtheners before we go into Shavasana, our final resting posture. First, starting out with Cobra Pose. Put your chin on your mat. Place your hands by your shoulders like you're going to do a push-up, but then slide your hands down a little further so your hands are next to your rib cage. Squeeze your upper back muscles together. Squeeze your legs together like a cobra tail. Tighten up your thighs and your buttocks muscles a little bit. Lift your chin off the ground, maybe your chest, maybe a little bit more. Maybe you can look forward as you squeeze your upper back muscles together. Continue to squeeze the legs together, the buttocks together, and continue to breathe for 3, 2, 1. Lower your body down, turn your head to the right, and bring your arms down by your sides. As you do so, relax your legs. full locust pose. Bring your chin back to center. Bring your arms out by your sides, kind of a capital T or a V position. You could always do a second set of cobra pose rather than this posture. This one's a little more difficult sometimes. Again, squeeze the legs, squeeze the buttocks, peel the chin and the chest up. Maybe the arms come up this time. Continuing to squeeze your shoulder blades together. You could also add on lifting the legs by lifting your thighs up off the ground rather than bending the knees. This comes from the buttocks muscles and your hamstrings. Continue to breathe and rest down. Turn your head to the left, bring your arms down by your sides, take a couple deep breaths. As you're ready, make your way onto your back. Take up a little bit of space here, separating your legs and arms a little wider, palms facing up toward the ceiling. Take a few deep breaths. And softly breathe through your nose. If your mind is already thinking about your next task, something you're worried about, something on the to-do list, practice for a couple minutes, just keeping your mind on your body and on your breath. In each passing moment, your mind just stays present and stays here. One way to keep the mind present is to follow the breath, staying with it for each moment of your inhale and each moment of your exhale. You could also use your phrase or your mantra. Just repeat it, using your breath as a guide. And feeling that mantra spreading throughout the body and just kind of filling up the body. Stay here for as long as you would like. And as you're ready to get up, just take your time rotating onto your side. And then pressing up to a seated position. The teacher and the light in me honors the teacher and the light in you. Namaste. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day and week and month and year. I'm going to demonstrate how to get up from the floor. If you feel comfortable, go ahead and do so. Just sit in a chair for a little while. I'll bring my chair back over here to demo. Remember, you want to use something that's sturdy. Get onto all fours. Crawl over to your sturdy surface. Bring your stronger leg forward. Tuck your back toes under and push through your hands and both feet as you bow your head down. Push through your limbs to lift your hips up. Step the back foot forward, turn around, and sit down. Namaste. We'll see you next time.